First thing I'm going to do is sort this out. And this is the off position for the Hello and welcome to another Retro Crazy. Today we're going to be looking at the Texas Instruments Ti-99 4A. Now I picked this up a while ago, it's nice, it's complete, it's in the box and everything is there. So here's hoping we can get this restored and working as it was back in 1983. Now the Ti-99 4A was the updated version of the Ti-99 4, which released in 1979. The 4A came out in 81 and it came out just after Commodore released the Commodore 16, and if you know any history with Jack Tramiels, he kind of started a price war. Now what that ended up meaning was by 1983, instead of being $500–600, the Ti-99 4A was retailing at about $99. It was costing Texas Instruments an absolute fortune because it was being produced for much higher than that. So they were losing money. Unfortunately, by 1984, they pulled the plug. It stopped production in March, and by that point it had sold about 2.8 million units, so that wasn't really to be sneezed at. Now I first saw these, I think it was in James Thins in Edinburgh when I was at school, and they always looked a cut above. They had the brushed steel finish and yeah, they looked, you know, really natty, but ultimately it really didn't take off. So let's pop this open and let's see what we've got inside. So here's the Ti-99 4A and the main hardware that's actually included with it, which is the power supply and the PAL modulator for us here in the UK. It comes with all its original manuals, everything is there. And why I said in the intro that, you know, let's restore this back to how it was in 1983 is because of this piece of paper. We've got Comet, 30th of August 1983, bought in Leeds, and at that time here in the UK it was £99.90. So not a small amount, but the original bill of sale, I mean, this is superb. So I'm going to pop this to the side, I'm covering that just in case somebody still lives at that address. It's got a nice full travel keyboard. The original 99 4, this was the Achilles heel. Everybody hated the keyboard that they supplied, so this was one of the updates that happened, along with a number of internal updates, obviously cost reduction and that sort of thing. Here we have ROM expansion port. On the front we have a power indicator with what should be the switch. I do believe these are a little bit notorious for becoming stiff and gumming up, so we'll maybe look at that. On the right hand side there is a pop-up panel that contains another expansion port. To the rear we have power in and a joystick port, and on the opposite side we've got our video out. And on the left hand side we have one further, what looks like a joystick port again. This looks like at some point it was maybe supposed to have been a pop open panel for expansion, but there's nothing there. Underneath we can see that originally it was made in Italy, and we have what looks like to be about 7 screws holding this whole thing together. The power supply is, yeah, it's quite hefty. I think there's a transformer in there, so that's quite a beast. And again, 2 screws to get in, And then we have this modulator. 3 screws gets us into that, because I'll need to check and make sure if there's any capacitors in here. So this is what we have. So first things first, as normal, I'm going to look at the power supply.
Power supplies are dangerous. There are components in these that can hold a charge long after they're unplugged from the mains. So if you're unsure what you're doing, go seek professional advice.
So with the power supply ready, the first thing I'm going to do is sort this out, because I hate tangles. And with that done and the cables neatened, we could open this. And those are some big screws. I know this has not been powered on for, well, years. So we're going to carefully lift the lid, and inside we have a massive transformer. We've got two fuses, and actually that appears to be it. How close that board is to the bottom, there are no capacitors there, and looking underneath there's just nothing there. So this is a straight transformer. So there's very little that can go wrong with this. That's great. It needs a bit of a clean, nothing major. So I'm simply just going to pop the lid back on. There's no point in being in here. Well, that has to have been the easiest power supply service, but there's still one thing to check, and that's what's in this plug. Now, it does look like that it is a 3 amp. The plug itself says 13 amp for brown, 3 amp for red, and that looks red. But I'm still going to check and make sure that everything in here is fine. And here we are, we can see it's a 3 amp, clearly marked. And it looks like the strain relief is fine. Both live and neutral are absolutely fine. It's a twin wire, so there's no earth on this. Excellent. We actually have a plug set up the correct way with 0 issues. Now obviously it's going to need a clean, because, well, that's disgusting. And I need to get all the dust out from all the different areas, but to be honest, I want to keep these. They're original. Let me go give this a quick clean, and I'll see you in a second. So moving on to the modulator, I've already bound up the cables, so let's go straight to opening. Still not seeing too much, so let's continue in. And there we are, we're inside the modulator. Now, 4 caps, definitely would like to replace. Right, another batch to do. We'll just desolder the caps from this side and replace. First thing I'm going to do is mark where they are. So with it all recapped, reassembled, I could put it straight back into the case, which is what I would normally do, but you wouldn't see some of the stuff I normally do, which I do off camera, and ironically somebody commented, so I'm going to cover it in this video, and that's what to do with the metal. And you might be able to see there's a whole bunch of fingerprints up here. Hopefully they're coming across on camera. There's some more down here, and of course on the other side. And the oils and everything off your finger act as a contaminant, and of course this is what happens. Now a lot of the time with basic stuff I'm doing, I'm just going to be spraying with 99.9% isopropyl alcohol, but because this is already tarnished, let me show you, looks fine. Actually this might come up okay. I think this instance we've been lucky, whoever's been in here, probably from manufacture. Need to use a little bit more down here, but now you can see the difference, and there's no fingerprints. So there's nothing to eat into the finish, and this will survive for a lot longer. So let me finish off, and then I'm going to reassemble. And there we are, all done, all back together. There are some small flecks of what look like paint, but they don't want to come off, and I don't want to damage the plastics. Trying to get those off at the moment. All the cables are clean, everything done. So let's pop this to the side, because now it's time to look at the actual Ti-99 4A itself. So now it's time to look at the main machine itself. It's rather nice. The brushed finish on it, you have to say, I mean, it stood out from anything else of the era. And the keyboard's actually quite nice. It's not too dirty or grubby. So yeah, quite nice. And as we remember, there are 7 screws. So let's start popping these out. Now I've no idea how this comes apart. Here's hoping it lifts up off the top. Nope, everything comes off from the bottom. Right, let me flip it back over. It all kind of wants to come off, except down by the power button. Well, we're in, but that is horrible. The design of everything just is fighting against you constantly. The power button to start with, the slider, here it's here. It's held in with a clip, and I'm guessing wiggling eventually it comes free, comes out, so you can get the rest of the mechanism out, but however, we are in. We can see lots of caps that need replaced. So, and oh dear, some very old thermal paste on that chip. It doesn't look too bad, it's a little bit grubby in places. I've got a separate power supply board here, which also has a number of caps that I'll need to replace, or at least will want to replace. Right, well, first things first, I'm going to do the power supply board, because, well, that's where we begin the journey. So with the power supply here and ready, let's mark the position of the caps, and then let's get all of these off. So with the board all done, everything replaced, including the 78M12, which is only a 500 milliamp rectifier, so I had to get some of those specially. Let's get ready to test. Now before I do, I'm just going to spray some deoxit into the switch. I'm going to operate the switch, and well, hopefully we'll be able to check on the pins at the back and see what the output is. So let's first of all just spray in some deoxit. So with the switch all done, I've checked and this is the off position, so on is actually over here. So first thing is let's power it up. Let's switch on and hopefully we get an LED, which, oh, we do, but I don't know if you can see that. It's not very bright, but it is there. Hopefully you can just see that glowing. Camera and everything is not picking that up very well, but it is on. Right, so ground should be here. We should have -5 volts. Yep. We should have 5 volts and we should have 12 volts. There we go, everything's fine. We can switch that off now and we can put this to the side. So one of the last things to look at is going to be the main board itself. We've still got a number of caps here that I would personally like to replace. I'm going to clean off all of this thermal compound and we will replace it with something fresh and new. Then hopefully give it a quick clean and drop it back in. Let me first mark off where all the caps are underneath, and then it'll be yet another cap montage. Well, that's the board all recapped. I am very disappointed with CPC. I did order some 22 UF 16 volt, and what I got through looked nothing like these. These were supposed to be aluminium electrolytics, and that's not what I received. So they went back, took them almost 2 weeks to get me replacements, and they were wrong again. So they've gone back, and I've just decided to go for the 22 UF 63 volts. They do fit in, not ideal, but they will do the job. So now that this is all done, I can basically pop this back after a bit of a clean into a nice shiny clean plastic case. And there we are, we're all done, we're all assembled, looking nice, everything doing what it should. The keyboard I didn't have to do too much to. It's mechanical keys, the caps cover the mechanism, so you don't need to worry too much about dust and dirt getting in. I gave it a good scrub down, lifted off the dust, and yeah, that was it. A couple of things that I should point out. Please remember when you reassemble the main circuit board that the screws and bolts you get the right way round, otherwise, well, the bottom doesn't go on, as I found out, and I had to take it all back apart. And then the second thing that I did wrong is this mechanism has to slip underneath when it's upside down, otherwise this side collapses and the door falls in. So yeah, that was a bit silly. What I did find though is the power switch. As you can see, it's currently missing, but the power switch, now that it's been apart, I can see it pushes in from the front. So an upwards pull and it should come out, and that will make disassembly much easier. Right, are we ready for testing? No, we're not. So let's move on. If I've done the power supply and I've done the Ti-99 4A, what's left to do? Well, I might have bought something. I might have bought what's known as a Flashrom 99, which is an SD card loader for loading all the games, and yeah, while I could use my SVI CAS, I thought, you know what, I have this, I'm going to use it. Not having actually run the 99 4A, I thought it would be nice to actually have all this ready. There is a small problem, because when I got this, and it was 2.5 years ago, I printed a case, and that's the Flashrom 99 case. It's available off of Thingiverse. So what could be the issue? Because it's all there, it's all ready. Well, if I drop this in and I pop the lid back on, you might see there's a slight issue of a missing button, and if you can see down inside, that button doesn't reach the top. However, when I bought this, I did wonder why it had another switch attached to the outside of the packet, and that's a massive one.
Don't mess about.
Let's quickly swap this over. And there we are, done. I can access it quite easily. There are a couple of other things. The design of this means that this is the highest part on the board, and as a result the slot drops. So we need to resolve that, and that's quite an easy resolution because I'm going to use some sticky feet. And that hopefully would be enough, and now that's fairly level. Much happier about that. Now we're not quite finished because there is another modification I need to do, and that's because once the top's on, there is actually a gap between the top of the chips and the board, so the board falls about. I might see about putting a foam back pad and actually just sticking the board down. That would work. So let me go grab the sticky back foam. And there we are. The lid is well held on. It's not accidentally coming off. Everything's held in place. So there we have our Flashrom 99. So now are we ready for testing? Almost. So the last thing that I want to add before we test is one of these. The joysticks for the Ti-99 4A apparently are not very good, and this just plugs into the side. Nice and simple and straightforward. So I guess that means I have to stop faffing and putting things off and actually find out if this thing works. So I'm ready for testing. I don't currently have a joystick, unfortunately. I actually loaned my good joystick, which I normally use for testing, which is a Competition Pro, to a friend of mine, and yeah, I need to kind of get that back, or go and dig out one of the other standard joysticks that I have in storage. However, we're all ready, we're plugged in. I've got the Flashrom 99 ready. It's not in because I want to make sure this works first. So let's make sure power is on at the wall, which it is, and it's powered on. I've got a red LED at the front. When we have a display, there's nothing on screen. There we go. And we've got TI Basic, superb. Right. It's all working. Oh, happy, happy, happy. Right, let's see if we can at least run some basic code. Oh yeah, not quite sure why I changed colour. I don't know if it's meant to. How do we break out of this? See, when you don't know machines, it's great fun. Okay, let's just do the basics, which is power off. Okay, right, let's drop in the Flashrom 99. I did see a flash from the LED. I don't know how this works. It's definitely resetting. Okay, bear with me a second. Right, well, that's a bit annoying. I have been through so many permutations. I've reread the instructions, I've double checked the image, I've double checked the formatting of the SD card. Everything is as it should be, it just doesn't want to run. So I don't know. I don't know if I've got a faulty one. I'm going to have to go and check and see if I can do some firmware checking on it, and yeah, not great. So not exactly how I wanted the video to end. However, all is not quite lost. I do own 2 cartridges. Unfortunately, I don't have a tape deck because I also have the tapes for this. Guess what? It is on here, but yeah, it's not going to work. So I have both, and I can check that at least these cartridges work. I don't know what the extended basic does. It obviously gives more commands. So we can try that first. And with that in, hopefully now, when we press any key, there's extended basic. So we can select it, and that's it. Okay, we're now in extended basic mode. I have also found out how to break into the program, so that's great. And with that running, function 4. And it breaks in, and we can list. And a warm reset is function plus equals. And we're back to here. Excellent. So let's swap over. Now obviously with this, which there it is, I can only get to this section. Yes, I can press any key to begin, but it's looking for the data files, and the data files are provided on tape. And the great thing about this is you just bought different adventures. Once you had the cartridge, you just loaded in the adventures you wanted. So it was kind of expandable that way, but without actually having a functional tape deck for this, or the cable at the moment to actually load. Yeah, now I could potentially dig out the SVI CAS, assuming I have the files in the format that the SVI CAS will read, which I think I do. But this has so far taken over a month with the issues between CPC and I do apologise. In fact, it's more than a month. This has been about 6-7 weeks, if not more. I'll be perfectly honest, and I'm going to admit that I have had a little bit of crisis of faith whether I can actually do this or not. Apparently, speaking to other YouTubers, we all go through it. I have had a number of failures that have happened behind the scenes, and it kind of smacked my confidence about the head a bit. So this is a good win for me, having this one work. I am really, really happy. You've no idea how happy this has made me seeing this come to life. We didn't get to play a game on it, but again, I'm still working on a series of roundup videos, so we'll be coming back to that and getting that done. And this will now be included in the roundup videos for the other ones where we haven't seen them running properly with games. So with this now functional, doing what it's supposed to, thank you for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next Retro Crazy or Retro Crazy Mini Bite.